Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
All right, well, if you told me on May 22nd, after I was writhing in pain from a gallstone that had passed through my system, that Michael Rubin, the CEO of Fanatics, on Fanatics Friday would repost this podcast and the recaps I was doing from Fanatics Fest, I would have said, I'm going back to sleep. I'm too tired because I just passed a gallstone. In all seriousness, thank you, Michael Rubin, for posting our show, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett, to your people. And you're the CEO of Fanatics. I mean, this is just so cool. And getting to meet him for a minute, and he said, just keep applying to Fanatics and whatnot. It was great. It was great. But I have some more flashback moments that this weekend is bringing up. I mean, it's going to be the 15-year anniversary commemoration of the Yankees World Series of 2009. And it correlates with the 15-year anniversary of starting Queens College and graduating the Henry Viscardi School for me. I mean, this is some personal shit. This was a year, 2009, a year of transition. From high school to college, from the old stadiums of Yankee and Shea to Citi Field and Yankee Stadium, the one that, they say George Steinbrenner built. It was a year of transitioning from one stage of life to the next. I mean, the old Yankee Stadium and Shea Stadium were an era, were our childhoods. Now we all had to move across the street to a new ballpark, a new layout, and of course the Yanks and Mets couldn't even open up till later in the year because they were still working on both Citi Field and Yankee Stadium. But that being said, I just am reminiscent today. Because this weekend honors 15 years since just this whole thing started for me. We got to see Mr. Steinbrenner on opening day of 2009, thanks to Ben and Rob Gomez. And that was special. We couldn't take a picture, but it was special to get to see him one more time. We noticed that the medal that I had given George Steinbrenner for winning the 800 meters was actually brought across the street from the old stadium to the new stadium. Notice that right off the bat, and how special is that? Along with the bullhorns that were in the old Yankees owner suite. That Mr. Steinbrenner personally hung up on the bullhorns in the old stadium. And playing-wise, I mean, it was a great time to follow this team. Things really heated up after the Luis Castillo pop fly drop. Sorry, Met fans, I have to say it. Where Teixeira scored all the way from first. That was amazing. On an A-Rod pop-up where he slammed the bat. But all of a sudden, Castillo drops it, and the Yanks don't look back from there. It was a year where, as I think about it, if David Robertson doesn't shut the door on the Twins with bases loaded and nobody out, I don't know what happens in that postseason. But it was almost like his arm and the baseball gods were in line that night. And the Yanks would, of course, win it in extras. I think that was the night Teixeira hit a homer. Of course, A-Rod in Game 3 of the ALDS hitting a major homer to put the Yanks on top for good. And then, of course, in the ALCS, we all know the wild throw by the Angels that got past the third baseman. Yanks win it, go to the World Series. Then in the World Series, things looked a little bleak, didn't they? Cliff Lee and the Phillies making mincemeat of that offense, that Yankee offense in Game 1. And then all of a sudden, I think they were either tied at 1 or going down 2-0 to Philly, and things changed. Andy Pettitte, a bloop single to center. A-Rod, a home run off the camera in center field, in right center. I mean, these moments change everything. And then Matsui back home against Pedro, doing what he did best, getting his base hits. He won the series MVP. And then, of course, the Yanks ground ball, Mariano to Teixeira, and the Yanks win the World Series. I mean, that excitement in the building that night, we want that again at Yankee Stadium. And I think we feel it again when Soto and Judge go back-to-back, belly-to-belly, or when the Yanks have a major win, and when you have the captain at 48 homers on his way to another home run chase. We'll have to see how the rest of the year plays out here, but it's kind of exciting. Kind of exciting. But this weekend also makes me reflect. See, 2009 was a special year because that means 15 years ago, we started this journey, online radio, podcasting, now on terrestrial, via being engineer for Arthur Aidala, Joe Piscopo, Kevin McCullough at times on AM 97 The Answer. The One Leg Up brand has moved around. But it started as the Sports Hour with Alex Garrett on October 15th, 2009. And if I'm not mistaken, the Yankees won the World Series in 2009, because my show was on a Thursday. The Yankees, I thought, had won it on a Wednesday night because I remember coming on the air the next day and talking about being at the game in 2009. I mean, this is history right here. Because not only was I a freshman and a freshman on the college radio station, but now I'm reporting on the World Series win the prior night. And that was basically how my Sports Hour career kicked off. Was following the playoffs, was texting friends from the stadium suite, from the suites of the stadium in general, and being immersed in it. That first semester of college, the Yanks win the World Series. That's what I'll also remember most about it. And I'll remember how my dad was always with me at Queens College and always going to those games with me back in the day. And it just, with him not here, I'm going to miss him tomorrow at Old Timers Day when they honor the team from 2009. But I'll also miss him because I can't believe how 15 years has changed things. I thought in 2009, 15 years ago, he'd be here strong and still being Pops, you know. But now he's being Pops from above, and I can hear him, I can feel him. I know his spirit's guiding me through the rest of life here. But I can't lie and say this weekend I'm going to be stone cold. No, it's going to be emotional. Because 2009 was such a pivotal year. Besides turning 21, well, actually, that happened a few years later. But besides going into college at 17, one of the youngest ages you can be going to college, because I hadn't turned 18 until October of that year. And by the way, that was my first year I voted in college. I'm just thinking about that now. But 18 in October 20th, getting the show 5 days before my birthday to round out my teen, to round out age 17. Oh, there's a lot to unpack. And I'm hoping to have my podcast anniversary party, maybe even at times Tiger Woods' lounge or Pier 17 if it's warm enough. I don't know. Things got to be in the works here soon, but I'd love to be able to take the show live and in person on October 15th and be with you, the fans of this show, and see who would actually come by and swing by for our 15th anniversary. But no, you talk about that 2009 World Series team. You talk about that run. You talk about what it meant to everybody in the new stadium. You talk about what it meant personally. I don't think I'll be the only one feeling kind of emotional. Because that World Series team, no matter who you were, where you were, what you were doing, encapsulated the city. And Brian Cashman, who I'm very thankful to have on this couple weeks ago, talk about today's team. Look at what he put together in 2009. Look at what he put together in 2009. He brought CeCe over. He brought Teixeira over. Hell, he brought Swisher. He brought Burnett. He brought the energy over to a team that already had Jeter, Posada, Mariano, A-Rod. He added depth to this team and excitement to this team with those off-season, and I remember very vividly, Christmas presents underneath the Christmas tree during the winter meetings for the Yankees. Remember, CeCe had an incredible 08 with the Indians. Even knocked out the Yankees a couple times as an Indian. Then his first year with the Yankees, he comes over and wins the World Series. Johnny Damon became a Yankee. He won it that year as well. I mean, I just think of the talent that team had and the wins that they were having. Melky Cabrera, I believe he was on the 09 team. Cano. I mean, what wasn't there to like about the 2009 Yankees team? Whose record was 103 wins and 59 losses. And I'm just looking back now. Cervelli was around. Phil Koch. Shelley Duncan. Jerry Hairston, who actually was a huge player in the speediness and the speed that got them the ALCS and World Series. Xavier Nady, Andy Pettit was there. Jorge Posada. David Robertson, as I mentioned. Wong. I mean, this team was solid and stacked. And we do have Brian Cashman to thank for that. And Girardi was the manager you wanted in that moment. And I'm so honored to have gotten to get a picture with him at the CGC Cards last week. Girardi was the manager you wanted in 09. Because not only did he help close the old stadium, not only was he part of the old stadium history with that RBI triple and those World Series as catcher, now he translated into winning as a manager. And though I don't know what the future holds with Aaron Boone, I would say Joe Girardi made a great adjustment from player to become manager. And he had managed a couple times before that, obviously, with the Marlins. And then he came over to the Yankees. And that signing of him as manager was so clutch. And now Shelley Duncan actually manages the AAA team. The Rail Riders. The Rail Riders. Scranton Wilkes-Barre. So, from graduating high school, a place that I was in from kindergarten to 12th grade, to transitioning into college, settling into Queens College, all of a sudden getting a radio show at WQMC Radio, and actually reporting every week on the World Series run, that's a memory. That's a core memory right there. And 15 years later, to have two Yankees join my podcast in a matter of months, in Nestor Cortez, and one Oswaldo Cabrera, to have Brian Cashman on my pod as well. I mean, some awesome conversations that 15 years later we continue to have. And who do I have to start out in the WQMC radio world? Bruce Beck, Bob Wolf, CJ Pop, I believe, joined at one point. I mean, the voices, Ann Liguori. Ann Liguori, my first semester in college, said, hey, why don't you do an internship with me for a week, and I'll give you a press pass to the radio bullpen at the U.S. Open. That's how college started for me. Being up there, meeting Mark Renee 15 years ago, Doug Doyle, who I still work with today with WBGO and other capacities. I mean, the connections continue. And the other special part of that Yankees run is we didn't know at the time, but it would be the last World Series George Steinbrenner would see. He was alive for that one in 2009. Because less than 6 months later, he passed away at 80. And we miss him to this day. His spirit will be felt tomorrow. His spirit felt every day. If you look at that bleachers in right field and see the boss and the picture of George Steinbrenner, he's there. He's very much there. Looking over our shoulder, looking over the Yankee shoulder even. And his spirit's with us. But just think of it, that's the last time the Yankees win the World Series for George Steinbrenner. It was almost storybook for that whole Steinbrenner era. And tomorrow, when Hal Steinbrenner comes up to the field and gets announced, I don't want to hear boos. That man is working hard to continue the Yankees' legacy of George Steinbrenner. I know we all get ticked off and say, well, what if George was here? But the truth is, I agree with Mike Vaccaro, the Hal's doing what he can to win. He wants to win. There's no doubt about it. And he's letting Brian Cashman make the moves in place. And for anybody who's complaining about this team today, let me remind you, the 2024 Yankees, 15 years later, have the best record in the American League. Okay? And it's August 23rd. The best record in the American League. And dare I say, baseball. Almost. And so when you get your replica ring on Sunday afternoon, and you see Hal Steinbrenner tomorrow, remember, Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman have one of the best records in this team, have one of the best records in the league. 75 wins. We are quicker to 75 this year than we were last year, and I think even in 2022. So something's working out. The Yanks will have first place majority of the weekend. If they win tonight, they'll have it through the weekend. So I know you paid a lot of money to go to see these games. I know it's the Judge and Soto show. I know we want all 7 batters stepping up as well around those two. But the point here, folks, is that the Yanks are in first place. And that's not by accident. They did a lot. Jazz Chisholm's a big acquisition. I'm so glad he's back tonight. But Brian Cashman, 15 years later, 25 plus years later, is still working his tail off to get this team where it's got to be. So I don't need to hear boos tomorrow on Old Timers Day for these guys. Especially because they have the first place lead over Baltimore. And that's not by accident. And may tomorrow be in the spirit of George Steinbrenner. May I enjoy it in the spirit of what it meant for me and my dad to be there every game. And may we add more voices to the One Leg Up with Alex Garrett podcast this weekend in the spirit of starting that 15 years ago during the postseason run that the Yanks would go on to win the World Series. The interconnectivity of this weekend, the synchronicity, as my stepfather Vic would say, is unreal. And last weekend, I got to pump the fist of CC Sabathia at Fanatics Fest and get a picture with Joe Girardi and C. Jeter. And I've gotten pictures with Mariano and Matsui along the way. I'm very honored to have all those photos and moments. And I'm very honored nearly 15 years later, the Fanatics CEO recognizes one leg up with Alex Garrett. As my mother had encouraged me to do, which is get to know Michael Rubin. It's happening, Mom. And I'm so thankful for your encouragement every day. And I love you, and I love Dad, and Abby, and everyone else. I miss Pops this weekend. Big time. And if things work out, hopefully Gabby will be with me tomorrow up at the stadium for Old Timers Day, and then Replica Ring Day this Sunday. We'll keep you posted on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.